wanted to talk about step one in the recovery process, which is honesty. And specifically what that means is being honest to myself that I have a problem, to admit that I have a problem, that I have an addiction, and that I of myself cannot overcome this addiction in my life. And it is the hardest step for an addict to take. Many times if you're caught in your addiction or this or that, you don't admit that you have a problem. You continue to try to hide it. And it's that pride that's inside of us. It's rooted in that pride, that we just don't want to admit that we have a problem. And we want to continue to disconnect, continue to isolate, continue to act like everything's perfect. My addiction that I had in my life that I've been able to recover from is that of pornography. And like most addictions, mine started because of curiosity. And what I failed to realize is that it quickly went from curiosity to an emotional addiction. And that's what I think most people don't understand about addictions is they're actually not tied necessarily to that one act, but they're tied to emotions. They're tied to the stimulation that you receive from participating in whatever that task is. It could be alcohol, it could be drugs, it could be pornography, it could be a lot of different things, but there actually is a stimulation that is received as you participate in that addiction. There's also a release of those emotions, that you feel a release, an escape from them. But what you fail to realize, or what I failed to realize when I was in that addiction, is what happens right after that is that there actually wasn't a release. It actually just created a bigger hole inside of me, inside of my mind, inside of my heart, inside of my soul. And that hole just gets deeper and deeper the longer and longer you go down the road with your addiction. And most people won't start recovering until they hit rock bottom. And I don't think I ever got to the rock bottom. I could tell that who I was becoming wasn't who I once was. And I wanted to be who I once was. So I decided that I would try to stop viewing pornography. And I couldn't. I couldn't just stop it on my own. And it was at that point that I had to be honest with myself. And I had to admit that I did have a problem and I didn't know how to overcome it. And that's when I started going down this pathway of trying to figure out, what do I do? How do I stop doing this? How do I overcome this? And it was a long struggle until I found a 12-step program that was designed specifically to help me overcome my addiction. And I went down that process. I trusted in it. And the rest of these steps will show what that process is. But it first began with my willingness to be humble enough to admit that I had a problem. It takes courage to admit that you have a problem. And it is the hardest step for an addict to admit that they have a problem.